Hi, my name is Raghav, and I want to talk about Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is the 21st film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the first Marvel film to have a female lead, which, that's great, but how did we let this happen? Why in a world where we have 20 Marvel movies, do we not already have a Black Widow movie? She's the obvious first choice. She's a fan favorite, and she's played by Scarlett friggin' Johansson, for God's sake. Just look at her credits. But somehow she's sidelined for Captain Marvel instead, which is not a dig on Captain Marvel. I actually quite like the character, I guess we should just be happy that we finally have a female-led Marvel movie, but this should have happened a long time ago. And it's kind of sad that it's took 20 films for Marvel to finally, work up the courage to cast a woman as a superhero. This is director Joanna Boden and Ryan Fleck's fifth film, but it's their first big mainstream big budget movie. All their previous films were indie ventures with tons of critical acclaim, and I have to say that this one did not disappoint. Unlike many indie filmmakers who end up in the big time and they aren't able to handle the pressure of studios meddling, Ryan and Anna managed to blend their film language and storytelling sensibilities seamlessly with Marvel's formula, and they delivered an entertaining character driven action-packed movie. Set in 1995, the story follows Carol Danvers as she goes on this journey to become Captain Marvel after Earth gets caught in the crossfire of a galactic conflict between the Kree and the Skrull. And I know these names are made up, but can they sound less made up? They almost sound like the fake names that they come up with on Rick and Morty. Okay, so Captain Marvel stars Brie Larson as the titular Captain Marvel, and I first noticed Brie Larson in her amazing performance as the glamorous Envy Adams in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which was directed by Edgar Wright and based on the graphic novels of Brian Lee O'Malley. Her performance as this bitchy, sultry rock star was so impressive that I always kept an eye on her career after that. Although she is a strong actress for the most part, she's somehow been sidelined to supporting roles in most films, and they aren't even particularly noteworthy except for her Oscar-winning performance in Room. I was really happy to see her get cast as Captain Marvel because I felt like she'd be able to portray the superhero with grace and strength, yet maintain a vulnerability and humanity that we need to relate to our protagonist. Plus, this is a big movie, which means she got paid hella monies. Brie Larson takes to the role like it was written just for her. Her charm is dialed up to 100. She's fully committed, giving us a fleshed out protagonist whose journey we can get completely invested in. The highlight of the film has to be the chemistry between Nick Fury and Carol Danvers. It's great to see Samuel Jackson back in the role of Nick Fury, but with the CGI youth that he's got and the fact that this film is set in the 90s, all I could think about was his character from Pulp Fiction. The visual effects teams really outdid themselves with the de-aging effect, both of Nick Fury and Agent Coulson, who is, by the way, reprised by the adorable Clark Gregg. He's so cute. I wish he was in more of the film. You really couldn't tell where the CGI ended and the real actors began. Sam Jackson is obviously the strongest and most magnetic actor of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He steals every scene that he's in. He elevates Brie Larson's performance, and they play off each other so well, creating a partnership that's like one of the best buddy cop movies. Another secondary character was Carol Danvers' best friend, played by Lashana Lynch. She was mainly a supporting role and didn't get a lot to do, but she played it sincerely, and so it adds to the overall ethos of the film. Speaking of world building, Ben Mendelsohn plays Talos, a Skrull leader whom the Kree are fighting. Ben Mendelsohn and the other Skrulls are so well fleshed out, and they have some really fun scenes where you can get to know them and their personalities, and they're really funny. Their ability to shapeshift is really cool because it adds a much needed freshness to the action and gives a level of intrigue, and the visual effect was really interesting because it had this bubbling, morphing effect to it, which made me think of the way that they change their faces in Harry Potter when they drink polyjuice potion. Although this is a much better effect than that. It's also important to add that the extras and side characters were really top notch, and the human characters that the Skrull shapeshift into were really good choices, and this has to be a credit to the directors whose indie experience, I'm sure, led them to make these strong decisions, as well as for the casting director Sarah Finn, who's a Marvel veteran. While the Skrull were well defined and fleshed out, the Kree, on the other hand, were just one-dimensional nonsense, comprising of idiots like Sexy Dumbledore, Sad Santa, Blue Gamora, and Jimon Honsu, who reprises his role as Korath from the first 2 seconds of Guardians of the Galaxy, while Lee Pace comes back as Ronan the Accuser for the last 2 seconds of this movie. Captain Marvel was shot by cinematographer Ben Davis, who is well versed in Marvel film language, having shot Guardians of the Galaxy, Avengers Age of Ultron, Doctor Strange, but some of his best work includes Kick-Ass and his collaboration with Martin McDonagh, who's one of my favorite directors. He worked on 7 Psychopaths and 3 Billboards. The film was edited by Elliot Graham and Debbie Berman, who both have experience with superhero films. Elliot having edited X2 and Superman Returns, while Debbie having worked with Marvel for a while on Black Panther and Spider-Man Homecoming. One of the big problems that I have with Marvel films, the way they are shot and edited, is the way they favor action over character. When you're rewatching these films, keep an eye out for how little time they spend on the characters when there's something actiony and exciting to cut to. In classic films, you'll notice that even in scenes that are full of CGI or visual effects or action or set pieces, we spend enough time with our main characters so we get to know them, we get to understand how they are reacting, how they are feeling in this situation, and how they might take the story forward. This helps us connect with them as people and by extension connect with the story. This is completely missing in Marvel movies. In Captain Marvel, however, it's a different story. The camera lingers on Brie Larson for as long as it takes for us to get to know her and slowly fall in love with her. This is another thing that I assume comes from the director's indie experience. Pinar Toprak's score was not particularly memorable, although the musical choices for the existing music of the 90s was really great. She is the first woman to score an MCU film, having previously provided additional music for Justice League. Okay, this last bit has spoilers, so skip to this time if you want to avoid them. My 2 favorite bits in the film involve how well the story brings sort of a female perspective and adds empowerment to the female characters in the film. The first is following the whole storyline of Carol Danvers as an Air Force pilot trying to get in a plane and just do something meaningful and making a real difference, breaking the glass ceiling. Reminder, this movie set in a time where they didn't actually let women fly planes into combat. There's a scene where an officer tells her that she basically doesn't belong there, saying something like, it's called a cockpit for a reason, right? Which is obviously a nasty thing to say to someone, and it definitely helps shape her into a strong woman. But that line pays off in a very interesting way very soon after it's delivered, and that's really satisfying. The second is in the end when Jude Law is trying to fight Brie Larson, saying that this is her chance to prove herself. He's basically trying to goad her into fighting him without using her powers, assuming that he's going to overpower her easily. Captain Marvel is just unfazed. She just blasts him with her powers, and she says, "I don't have to prove you anything," and just literally drags him away kicking and screaming, and it's objectively badass. In conclusion, this is a solid entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I would definitely recommend that you spend your money and buy a ticket and watch this film on the big screen. Thank you for watching my first review on the channel. If you like this video, consider subscribing. I will make a new review every other week. Leave me a comment if you see something, say something. Bye.